So welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Marcella, thank you for organizing this and giving us the opportunity to come together. When Marcella and I were talking, starting this summer and really trying to think what are some new things that we can do. Obviously, this year has been very different for all of us. We're having to learn new ways to connect, and using Zoom, I think for me, is one of the really positive things that has happened this year. I don't love Zoom all the time, and I miss seeing people, I miss hugging people, but I'm really grateful to have a platform like this where we can come together from all over the world and still see each other and meet each other this way. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that after this session this afternoon, you will go home with some ideas and with some more confidence, about approaching looking for work and the different opportunities that are out there. But I also hope that you find some ways to connect with each other or to continue to connect with us as well. I know we miss traveling and we miss the opportunity to be together in person, but we will be able to again, right? I'm confident about that. So right now, I think this is something that we can do just to stay motivated and to continue some of that work. So then when the pandemic is only a memory, we know that we've done work along the way to continue to improve, to be able to reach our goals and achieve our dreams. So I want to tell you just a little bit about me first. My name is Jennifer, and I am the director here at WESLI. WESLI is a language institute in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know if anyone has heard of the state of Wisconsin, but we are in the US, sort of in the center north of the country, kind of close to Chicago. So if you've heard of Chicago, we're near there. And we have worked with Marcella. We consider ourselves business partners, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to welcome people here to show them about Madison. The Institute, we will next year be celebrating our 40th anniversary, and we work primarily with two groups of students. So students that are wanting to go to university in the US, both for undergraduate and graduate level work, but need to really improve, especially their research writing and that kind of English. And we also work with business people who need to improve their English for work, to get a promotion, to find a job. And so Hannah will share some stories about some of the various students that we have been working with. But for me, one of the important things in remembering in all of this is the first step is just having the confidence to start, right? So you're all here today, you all signed up. So that's a big, yay, round of applause. What you're doing is, it can be scary, right? And taking the time to invest in yourself, to invest in your future, is something that is very important. So congratulations just for deciding to show up. And I'm going to now introduce you to Hannah. Hannah is one of our instructors here. You'll get to know her more this evening. But Hannah works specifically with helping our students and our business clients make those, improve their resumes, improve their writing on their cover letters, interview practicing, public speaking support. So she's going to have a lot of good tips and resources. She'll probably make you talk a little bit and work through things. We very much believe that you learn from doing things. And so you'll go through some of that. If you have any questions, if you don't understand what I'm saying, what Hannah is saying, don't worry, you can ask. there's no problem if you need something repeated, but also remember, you can always follow up afterwards. So we'll send you the PowerPoint and the resources after today, and you can continue to communicate with us. And if we need to do something more, Marcella and I can, work together. Maybe we can offer some further information after the holidays if it seems like there's a need for that. So without talking too much more, because I can just go on and on, I will pass myself over to Hannah so she can get started. And Marcella, thank you again for putting this all together.
Just let me say thank you, because as you said in the invitation, now it's difficult for us to travel for most people. So it's good to have you here. It's good that you said yes when we were discussing about different ways to connect. And thank you for sharing your knowledge, your time with us. I think it's a good way to build a relationship and a bridge between all of us in different parts of the world. So thank you very much. Thank you, Hannah. So it's your turn now.
Yes.
And something else, if someone wants to ask anything and they don't know how to say it, I can help, or don't be afraid. This is not a lesson. This is just a conversation. We will share and we will learn from the things we don't know. We are not here because we know. We are here because we want to learn. So this is something you need to have in mind.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, if you have any questions, please, I think raise your hand or unmute yourself or type it in the chat, and I can help you. Marcella can help you. Yes, I am not grading you. No English test here. It's just a fun way to learn together here. So, all right. I'm going to share my screen. Right. Okay. Oh, present. There we go. All right. Let's go back here. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to have this class with you today for the next hour or so. And I am Hannah, so feel free to call me Hannah. I am with WESLI, as Jennifer mentioned, and I help lots of students with their job search skills. Jennifer talked a little bit about WESLI. As she mentioned, I help lots of our students with their professional goals with their careers, and English is a part of that. And so we've had a few students that I want to just quickly share about. We've had, currently, we have a student from Chile. Christian, he is an accountant from Chile, and his, at the beginning of the pandemic, he actually lost his job. And so he's here studying English to improve his skills so he can get back into the job market and continue with his career. We have Jonathan, he's from Colombia. He's here right now, and he's a computer programmer, and he's also studying English to improve his English for his working with customers, but also just future career opportunities. And in the past, we've had quite a few from Brazil with Monsanto, the seed company. So they came, they studied for a little while, and they were able to come to Madison, kind of explore what our agriculture here is, and really have an immersive experience. And watching their English grow from when they first came to when they left was really promising to watch. So we've also had vets, people who work with pets and animals. They've come and studied railroads, paper companies, hotels. So really everyone comes to work on their career goals. So yeah, let's see here. To begin, I would like to ask you some questions to see a little bit about where you are on this. So in the chat, I would like you to write your name and what field do you work in? So what is your name and your field of work or your industry? That will give me a better idea of who we have here and what you're looking for. All right, perfect. We have health insurance, all right. And after you type your name in, you can take a look at the questions I have on the screen. And we'll discuss those. So in the chat, you can write your name and the industry you're in. Perfect, thank you. And then we'll take a look at these questions. So, all right, perfect. International education, English, accountant, finance, aeronautic company, wow. We have a student in international relations, great. Awesome, business administration, IT. All right, great. So we have quite a few different fields. So that's always good to know. But like I said, we've had many students in many different fields. So all of this will be helpful for you. So let's start. So if anyone is a brave soul, you can unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat. What is the purpose of a cover of a resume or a CV? We call it resume here in the United States, but you might call it a CV. So what to you is the purpose of a CV or resume? Takers. All right, good. Thank you everyone for writing your name and your industry. That's really helpful to know. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Azul.
We think that the proposed CV resume is to demonstrate your skill, knowledge, or experience in your words in short words.
Yeah, awesome. Perfect. Yes, that's a great summary.
It must have short in one sheet or two sheet maximum.
Yes, yes. Good key on the length there. Yes. Yes, Azul also said, show your skills and your experience. Right. It's a summary of everything you've done in your professional time. And how about a cover letter? What is the purpose of a cover letter? What is a cover letter and why do we use it?
Sorry. Go, Itati, go. I think that the cover letter is a brief personal introduction for the other to know a little bit more about who you are apart from your work experience.
Yeah, no, that's a great summary. Yes, yeah, it's an introduction. I like that, a brief introduction, because you haven't met them yet, so you want to give them some information before they make too many decisions about you. Yeah. All right. All right. And then let's see. What scares you the most about the application or the interviewing process when you're searching for jobs? What makes you super nervous or very stressed out?
I think which scares me the most is to speak maybe and to have the all vocabulary that you need to give good answers.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, there's gonna be
psychology.
I'm sorry, I believe the most scare in interview is demonstrate the weakness when the interview asks you about your weakness, for example, in the interview. And I don't know if you understand.
yeah, no, the weak question is a very difficult question. So
Yes.
Yes.
yes. Lucas, did you have something?
Yes, I think it's very difficult when what you say. It's very difficult to you describe yourself.
Yes, the tell me about yourself question. And you're like, it's me. Yeah, that can be a very difficult question. And at the end, we're going to actually practice that a little bit to help boost your confidence and find some words to say on that. So yeah, no, these are great things. Anything else?
When the interview asks you about why do you want this work in a specific. So it's a difficult question because all want the work because want the money or because I like it, the topic, but give the answer in this point is difficult.
Sure, yes. Many of those common interview questions are tough. And to have some preparation beforehand can definitely help with feeling more confident in those answers. Okay, and then if you have any other things that scare you, feel free to add that into the chat, things that we can kind of look at later. But my last question is, does everyone have a CV or a resume or a cover letter? Do you guys already have one? If you do, can you put a thumbs up so I can see?
I do, but I have, but in Spanish, I have to translate to English, you know, and then is when the problem comes. Just to feel confident about the language, I mean the words you use to describe everything in the resume or the cover letter.
Sure, yeah, but the good news is you have somewhere to start, so you're halfway there. All right, well, let's continue here. So we're going to be talking about resumes, cover letters, and interviews. And because we have a short time, I will give as much information as I can about each one in the time we have here. But as you mentioned, resumes, they show the important, relevant experiences, demonstrating your skills, your knowledge, your education. Cover letters, on the other hand, as Luis mentioned, it's an introduction of yourself, and you can share specific experiences that really highlights you more than just a resume page. And then we'll also be talking about interviews. Preparation is the #1 key thing you can do for interviews. And I think often people can feel like, how do I prepare for an interview? I don't know what they're gonna ask, but I think there's a few things we can do to help with that. All right, let's see here. All right, so we're gonna move right into the resume. So as we mentioned, the purpose of a resume is to show your work and education history, highlighting the most important skills or results. You wanna always make sure that for each job that you're applying to, you're tailoring it to each one. So it's not just a one copy and pass out 50 copies, but that you're making sure each job has its own unique resume that you're submitting for it. Some general tips for resumes is keeping some white space and your spacing. If your page is very full of words, looking at it will give them a headache. So make sure that there's some breathing space as they look at it. You can change your margins on a page, right? Sorry, I didn't print my pages with me today. But you can, change your margins on a page, but you don't want to have it so far that it looks like you're trying to put more information on the page. As Natalie mentioned, you want to use keywords and vocabulary and use them from the job posting. So they'll have a list of keywords and we're looking for this, that, and the other thing. And you want to use those words inside your resume. And that's where customizing it is really important. And then of course, research your industry for specific tips. So if you're an engineer, the requirements for submitting a resume and cover letter are different than if you're a business administrator, which may be different than if you work at a university and you need to have publications with your CV. So make sure you understand your industry specific. What we're going to talk about today is very general, that applies to most fields and covers the basic elements that you'll need for each one. All right, so here are some examples of different layouts that I just wanted to kind of get you seeing so you know what I'm talking about next. So on the far left, we have an example here, Lisa's example. This is one way to design your resume. In the middle, we have Nicole. Hers is a little bit fancier, a little bit more artsy. That is not required. And then on the far right, we have the marketing professional one, and it uses 2 pages. And I wanted to provide an example of what 2 pages might look like. But as you can see in each of these, that has that white space, right? So that when you look at it, your brain's not like, oh my gosh, this is too much at once. It gives your eyes some space to breathe.
Excuse me, I have a question. Is it a requirement to put a picture of yourself in the resume or in the States, or is not?
Yeah, so in the United States, you would absolutely not put your picture on there. I know that is different per country, but in the United States, because of discrimination laws, you can't have your picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. For resumes, at the top of your resume, you want to list your full name, your address, or at least the city that you live in, and ways to contact you, the phone, your email, and then some links. So you can, if you have a LinkedIn account, you can put your LinkedIn direct link so they could find you online, and it's like an extra page to your resume. Or if you have a website or an online portfolio or a biography, you can link things there. Keep it short and simple and at the very top of the page. You don't want it to take over the page, but you want it to be highlighted. Next, you want to list your education. So any university degrees you have, from your bachelor's, a master's, maybe a PhD, you want to list those. List the school or institution, the dates that you attended, the degree that you obtained from them. So I think someone mentioned they're in genetics, so make sure you list that you have a genetics degree. And then if you've specialized in, I don't know anything about genetics, but something very specific to genetics, let's say animal genetics, you would list your specialization. And the example here that I have is one way you can format it on the page. I prefer to do a left adjustment, where we're starting at the left side of the page, not putting it in the center, but everyone's different. There's no one right way to do it. If you have any certificates or professional learning programs that you've taken, you can also list these here. So for example, I went to the University of Wisconsin and I got my bachelor's in science communication. I have a teaching English certificate from WESLI, and I would list both of those items. You may want to also list any specific classes that you've taken in either your certificate program or a university program that are relevant to the position that you're applying for. So if you're in genetics and you studied science communication, you might want to list communication about genetics course 101 or whatever it is. Okay. All right, so as we mentioned, it's a summary, right? So you want to summarize all of your work experience. List all of the dates for each work experience, the location of that, your role at the organization, and the organization. If you've had more than one role at an organization, I would list that either together in one bullet point with the same organization, or two clear ones, but still having the location in the organization, just so that when they see a new position, they know which organization it's for. So we want a brief description of the most important tasks, skills, or accomplishments. And we want to use active language. So this is where the vocabulary becomes really important. When you have your bullet points, you want to say organized annual event for the company, or increased sales for this program. You want very strong verbs there to show what you've done, and keeping that verb tense consistent. So organized, planned, always making sure that's in the past tense and keeping that consistent. I think for your current role, you can choose if you want it to be in past tense or present tense. I think it reads very nicely when it's all past tense, even if it's your current role. All right, so many years of work or many jobs. So if you have worked a long time, you have 20 years of work experience and a lot of jobs or a lot of roles, choose the most relevant roles to the position you're looking for. So maybe 20 years ago, you worked at a grocery store. Maybe it's not relevant today and you can leave it off. Or maybe you did a career change. Maybe you were a teacher and now you work in a research laboratory, and maybe that happened 10 years ago. So there might be some things that are relevant, but I would choose the past 10 years of laboratory work. I would make that your priority and choose the others maybe not to be highlighted on your resume. You can list the very old jobs or the less relevant jobs at the bottom of your work experience section, and then just kind of list the position and the organization to show you have been working for many years, but that this is what you want them to focus on. Sorry, I talk with my hands a lot, so I hope that's okay. Okay, so let's take a look at the resume, okay? So if this is your work experience resume, you can list professional experience or work experience, career experience. You can label it kind of however. Work experience or professional is most common. So on the left, that first arrow, it says list the company and position. So company X in the city and the state, and then the position that you held. So it looks like this person was a junior accountant at the company in the city. On the far right, they have the month and the year that they started the position, and is it their current position, or you would list your end month and year. And this is a good way to organize your resume to show a clear progression of your past roles. Okay, so then if we look at the bullet points, we can, this was a good example I wanted to use because of their language. So they have a few verbs, right? They have manage, document, ensure, supported, build, and developed. There's a few things I see here. One, we have two verb tense going on, right? We have manage, but then we have supported. And so we want to make sure that it's the same tense. And like I said, it's a current position, so they can choose to have it all present tense or all past tense. So use the active language and the verbs instead of starting with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth bullet, when it says build relationships, they could have said relationship building with vendors and service providers, but then you're starting with a noun and not a verb. And so a stronger resume starts with a verb rather than a noun. And you want to provide examples that, you know, are matching the job posting. So you may have many things you did in a job, but you need to just choose the top few out of your role. The resume is not meant to tell everything about every role you've done, but just to highlight a few things. Okay, any questions there? Otherwise, I'll move to the next slide. Okay. So overall, again, just here's an example of that where we have, they organize it differently. You're welcome to organize it many different ways. And I can send this out as some examples after the class to you guys. But they're putting their time on the left-hand side, and then they have their role and the organization. So it looks like from April 2019 to present, they are a resort hotel receptionist at Aventura Resorts. And then on the far right, it says where, Fort Lauderdale. And then they highlight the most important things, just as a nice review. If we look at their bullet points, it says responsible, act, check, and then it says the first point of contact to address problems with room defects or health emergencies. Instead of using a sentence or starting with the noun, we could change that phrase to say addressed problems with room defects as the main contact. So there's a few ways that you can say it that I think can be more strong, can be stronger. Okay. So the next section of your resume would be your volunteer or community experience. And again, you want to list your dates, the location, your role in that, and the organization. And then, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm misspelling that, tasks. A brief description of the most important tasks, skills, or accomplishments. And these bullet points will probably be even less than what your jobs are, just because you're trying to fit it on a page or two, as Maria had mentioned. And then after that section, there's often a section called skills. And that's where you would list your languages. So English, Spanish, maybe you speak German or Japanese, any technical skills you have, or any software that you know. So if you are a social media marketer, you might write out, you know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube marketing channels or something to highlight those specific areas. So on this example, we have their name at the top, the education, their professional experience, and then the volunteer experience at the bottom. And oops, I'm so sorry. And at the bottom, as you can see, it's very short. Unless you're working with like a community organization or something that is that values volunteer experience, you can just keep it brief. So again, these were some of the different examples of resumes that we had. There's so many different ways you can design it, but just keep in mind what the person reading your resume, and they've never met you, what they're gonna think when they see it. You don't want it to be too busy with words, so having some of that white space. Having clear headers, right? Work experience, professional experience. Make sure you title each section so it's very clear for them. And then making sure that your bullet points start with really strong verbs that very accurately show what you did very quickly. So they can just quickly look through and be like, oh, they planned, organized, implemented, strategized, and they're like, oh, this person knows what they're doing. Okay. All right. Any questions on resumes? We'll jump into cover letters. If you have a question, you can always write it in the chat. All right. So moving right.
I have a question.
Oh, sure,
Sorry.
sure. No, go for it.
What's the time gap that you have to take into account to dismiss a certification or something that is not important? I mean, for 20 years ago to 10 years ago, 5 years ago, what is the average amount of time?
Sure. I think if you're still using a certificate and it's relevant to your position and your work, I would keep it on your resume. If you did it 20 years ago and you haven't used it in 10 years, or you only used it for a few years, I don't think you have to have it on your resume. You could just drop it off. For example, if you got your teaching English certificate 30 years ago and you taught in Thailand for 2 years and you've never taught English since, I don't think you would have to put it on your resume, or shouldn't feel like you have to unless it's relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so cover letters. I always think cover letters are the most difficult piece because it's an open question of tell us about yourself, as we mentioned before, is a very difficult question. So cover letters briefly describe your work or other experiences by highlighting the most relevant examples. And I think just so that we can quickly see what they look like. So it's a professional business communication format that we want to keep. And we're going to talk about a few different sections. But let's go back to the tips. I just want to make sure you have this visual in your mind. Okay, so for the tips for a cover letter is every cover letter needs to be a unique letter to the organization that you're applying. You want to keep it in a professional business letter format, the date, the address, even if it's only being sent by email or being submitted online. Having that format can really show your professionalism. Choose only the most important things to talk about in the letter. There is not room for everything. And so you want to highlight the most important things that you want them to learn about right away. Make sure, again, you're using your action verbs, like the strongest verbs that most accurately describe what you're trying to say. Make sure you sprinkle those in so that, again, as they're quickly skimming, they'll be like, oh, challenged, organized, planned, very quickly. And then again, make sure you research your industry for specific formatting, length, or other specific things in your cover letter. As I mentioned, if you're an engineer and you're applying for an engineering job, their requirements look much different than the average resume. Okay, so again, this is what the cover letter looks like. And so we have a few different sections that we'll go through. So at the top, So all of these at the top have like their name quite large. You can do that. You don't have to do that. I don't always recommend it for people because sometimes it takes up really precious space if you're trying to say a lot. And that extra inch at the top could be used for a paragraph instead. It's your choice. But you do want to have your the date on the letter, and then you want to have the address and the company and the name of your contact. And then we're going to go into an introduction paragraph, a work experience paragraph, a skills paragraph, and then the conclusion, okay? All right, so here's the layout that I was talking about for the start. So you want to have the job company written out, their address, and the addressee, whoever you're addressing. It might be the manager, it might be a hiring manager, and you might need to do some research on LinkedIn or just the internet to find out who is it that you're writing this to. If the job posting doesn't list it, when you search for it and you find it and put it on there, it shows them this person really cares and they did their research to find out who this was. You want to put the date on the letter. So on this letter, we have June 12th, 2017. And then they have the hiring manager's name and then the address. You can put the phone number and contact information of the company. I usually just do an address because they know how to contact themselves, so I'm not worried about that information. And then we go into that introduction, the work experience, skills, and conclusion. You always want to have a formal greeting for your letter. So I usually recommend Dear Mr. Jones. If you can't find a name, you can say Dear Hiring Manager or to the hiring manager or something more generic that still addresses whoever is in charge of reviewing your application. And those are all the components. Okay, so in your introduction paragraph, you want to list the position out. They may be receiving lots of cover letters and resumes for lots of positions at once, so you can help them stay organized by making sure it's in your introduction paragraph. And then you want to follow that by a brief statement about why it would be a good fit for you and why you're interested in the job. So for example, we have this paragraph here from the letter. So we would say, Dear Mr. Jones, my name is Hannah Leduc, and I saw your job posting on Indeed.com last week. A lot of websites or a lot of resources recommend saying where you found the job posting because that really helps their hiring department. So anytime you can help out the people who might hire you, try to do that. They said, continuing in the paragraph, I've been working as a business analyst for more than 5 years and I love it. Developing novel business models and forecasts that I can later see put into effect is fulfilling, and the company is well known in the industry for employing cutting edge business tactics. I would love to apply my skills and passion for creating innovative strategies to an organization of such repute. So they said, this is the job I'm applying for. It says, I saw your job posting. So here we would want to say, I saw your job posting for business manager on Indeed.com last week. And then talking about briefly their experience and then briefly why they think they'd be a good fit. This is not my favorite introduction paragraph, but I think it's a nice example of the elements that you want in it. Okay, so the next paragraph then we want to talk about work experience, and we want to explain the most important experiences that we've had in our past work history. And we want to take phrases from the job posting and put them into our cover letter. So if they say, plan and organize events for company retreat annually, then in your paragraph, you want to say, you know, in the past, I have planned annual retreats for our department, blah, blah, blah. It may not be exact, but any keyword you can use and help remind them that it's a good fit, you want to use those. Talk about what you've done and the results. So if you are a sales manager and you've improved your sales by 300%, say that you have increased sales by 300%. The more concrete numbers or examples you can provide, the better. If you have a job where you're like, well, I can't really measure, I don't have numbers for what I do, you can tell them about your growing competency. So if you've done trainings, if you've completed so many hours of continuing education credits or something similar, you can talk about that data in a qualitative way rather than with numbers. So let's just quickly read this paragraph here. So, valued and recognized as one of the top travel agents in the Geneva area, I have always done everything in my power to meet and exceed customer expectations and ensure their satisfaction with provided services. So with that sentence, I'm going to assume that the job description probably has words like customer service, expectations, customer satisfaction, and then like strong verbs like exceed really helps show that not just I can do the job, but I can do better than what you're expecting me to do in the job. Okay, let's move to the next slide. In the next paragraph afterwards, we want to talk about other skills or other examples that show you're a great match for this job. So you want to explain the most important skills that you have. Again, use the similar phrasing as the job posting, and talk about how these make you a better employee. So instead of just listing, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, you want to say, I can do this, and this makes me a better employee this way. Show an application of your skills to that future position. So if you have knowledge of the English language, tell them that it provides a better client service or experience for those that you work with. Or if you're really good at working in WordPress and building websites, that you've been better able to create websites and you understand the features to provide a better user experience of the website. Really want to show the application of what you have and what is possible to help the hiring manager to have to like not think about it at all. So this paragraph here is a little bit of a combination between the work paragraph and the skills paragraph. But I think if we go to the very last sentence in this paragraph, it says, I excel at communication with customers and offer the important ability to work and perform well under pressure. So because this person has this skill of communication, they can apply it in situations that are very stressful and can still have really great customer experience. So they kind of summarize it for the reader. We always want to have a conclusion paragraph, the conclusion paragraph is my favorite because I think it's the easiest one. So in a conclusion paragraph, you want to thank them for their time for reviewing it. Again, state your interest in the position and then write out the ways that they can contact you. If your resume and your cover letter ever gets separated, you want them to still be able to contact you. Sometimes it's not stapled or it's not printed right, or they have a bazillion papers, and it's just a better way to make sure they can contact you. So in this paragraph, they say, the thought of working for the company thrills me, and I would love to have an opportunity to speak with you face to face. I am available anytime, Monday to Friday, and can be reached by phone at whatever the phone number is, and by email, whatever the email is. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. That's a nice summary, and then ending with a professional salutation, where you would say sincerely. I think sincerely is probably my favorite word to use in the conclusion. Some people will say best, or best wishes, or thank you, or something to that effect, whatever you're comfortable with. I have seen some letters use warm wishes, and maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I think warm wishes is a little too, maybe not quite as professional as saying just thank you or sincerely. So it's your preference, but that's usually what I advise. All right, so again, looking at our different cover letters, you can, now that you're looking at it, you can see the structure, right? The address information and company information, the intro paragraph, work, skills, conclusion. Any questions on the cover letter? All right. All right, and now we're to the good part, right? Interviewing. Interviewing can be a very difficult process to go through. It puts you on the spot. It can make so many people nervous, but it's really a chance for the company to get to know you. And I think it's really important to remember it's an interview for you to the company, right? You're interviewing the company too. Do I like this place? Does this seem like a good fit? Are these people I want to work with? And that gives you a little bit of power in the situation, instead of feeling like, oh, please like me. Please, I hope my answers are good. I think it can help you with a little confidence. So always remember, in an interview, you're interviewing them too. So it goes both ways. All right. So interviewing, preparing involves a few steps of research. So the first is that you want to research the company, the department, and the staff. So who's the hiring manager? Like I talked before, if they don't list it, do some research and try to find out who's on the team. So who would be interviewing you? How many are on the team? What are their roles? What are their backgrounds? Maybe in an interview, you can bring up the research you found that this individual on the team previously worked at the soccer league or something. And, you know, you can, if there's chit chat time or something, you can talk about soccer, or say, hey, I used to work at our local school soccer team, and that person would be like, oh, soccer, that's amazing. So when you do your research, you're really better able to have a personal connection with them, and then you'll stick in their mind a lot better. Researching the company, it sounds very easy, but I think we often forget to do this. We want to know, when did the company start? What is their mission? What are their values? And also, like, what are their services and products? I think it's very easy to say, Monsanto, for example, they make seeds. Okay, but like, what is their mission? Is it to eradicate hunger in the world? Is that really what their mission is? Or is their mission to provide quality seeds for farmers? And then you can customize some of your responses in your interview to speak to the values or the mission that they have, and show, see, I'm aligned with what you are looking for. to do in this world. Services and products, some companies have a lot and some have just a few. If they have just a few, I would really encourage you to look at their services and products and make sure you have a general understanding of them. If there's a bunch of them, then I don't think there's an expectation you would know all of them. And then the last thing you can do to prepare for an interview is prepare questions that you have for them. Like I said, you're interviewing them too. So you might have questions about what is your team structure like? How often do you meet? Do you do team building activities? What kind of annual events that do employees have where they can contribute to the planning and strategy of the company? Or what kind of values do teams have when they're creating products or the vision? Or what does that process look like? Ask them all kinds of things that are beyond the, what are your benefits packages? How much is the salary? Or, you know, maybe some of those maybe uncomfortable questions. For the interview, you can do a lot of research online of practicing common questions beforehand. So for example, like we talked about, the tell us about yourself question. That's a very common question. Why do you want this position? What are your strengths and weaknesses? There's lots of common questions out there that you can do a little homework beforehand and prepare on. Have your materials ready. If it's a Zoom interview right now, they're doing Zoom interviews. Make sure you have your electronic files ready, easily findable or already opened in a window or a minimized tab. If you're going in person, make sure you have them printed out to be able to quickly share. You might want an extra copy of your resume to bring with you in case, you know, should they forget one, you can be the hero and have your resume right away. If you're in marketing, you might want to have like some examples of what you've done, or whatever your industry is, some examples. And if you don't have like tangible examples, you might just want to write down some examples of things you've done in your past and then bring that with you. Bring a piece of paper and a pen with you so that you can take notes during the interview, but you can also refer to a few pointers. During an interview, your body language is very important. So having posture, keeping eye contact. I know every culture is different with eye contact. I know some of our Japanese students that we've worked with, eye contact, like straight eye contact is very intense and may not be the norm in Japan. So there's definitely cultural things. Voice volume, how loudly or how quietly are you talking? Often when we get nervous, we start to talk a little bit softer, and it's a little harder for them to hear, and they have to be like, what was that? And if you talk a little louder, you sound stronger and you sound more confident. Even if you're nervous, you can fake it till you make it by just simply increasing a little bit of voice volume. Please don't shout though. That's too much for them to take in. So we said that some interviews are probably taking place on Zoom instead of in person right now. So I just wanted to talk about a few online tips. I know it can be difficult to work from home and to interview from home because your brain is saying, I'm at home, but the appointment is a professional appointment. So remember to be professional in your Zoom call when you're doing the interview, that you've cleaned up your background and that you've gotten fully dressed, right? A suit and tie, that you have a blouse on. Make sure you're wearing pants. put your dressy shoes on, really feel the part, and then your brain will be like, oh, that's right, I'm working right now, I'm in my professional role. You also want to think about your background. So if you have a background where you're in your house and maybe it's your kitchen cupboards behind you, you can always put in a fake background if it's on a platform that you're comfortable in using. If you can't use a fake background, which is totally fine, I think now people are very much more accepting of home backgrounds that are actually your home. But you want to make sure there's no dishes, no kids running through, you know, considering what they're looking at, because they're looking at your face and beyond, which I think is hard to think about when we're looking at a screen. If you do use a fake background, you can just Google like Zoom backgrounds, and there are so many good ones out there that look like beautiful homes, or like a city view that looks like you're in a city office or something professional. I would not suggest like a nature one or something that's very specific, like a picture of your university campus or a bunch of flamingos behind you or something that might be a little distracting for them. So keeping it professional. Windows can be very hard for people to see your video. So if you have a window, if I had a window right here and it was brighter outside, the sun was coming through, it would have this really weird glare, and then you could only see maybe half my face. So make sure that the window is like to your like side or like above you, kind of in this direction. And it's kind of hard to show you, but play with your computer beforehand and just make sure that that's a good angle. All right, so here are some examples of questions. So there's the elevator pitch, right? The tell us about yourself, and you'll have 2 to 5 minutes to quickly talk about you and all of who you are, on a very in a very intense moment. People will also ask questions. Tell us about a time that you had results, were proud of something, that you worked on a team. And so you want to, like I said, do some of that research beforehand, so in your homework, in your preparation. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Or please provide an example of a time you were aware of a weakness and you were able to overcome it. So you want to think about some examples, and those are good things to like put in a Google Doc and then always have on hand, even in the future, because you may forget experiences from your past. And so having those in a Google Doc for whenever you need them will be very helpful. Okay, so what I would like to do is practice our elevator pitches. So let's just talk quickly about our elevator pitch. So does anyone have an elevator pitch that they feel like, oh, I know what to do here? It's not super common. Yeah, it's very hard. Okay, so an elevator pitch, I always have to practice, so I'm sorry if I butcher mine. But you want to tell who you are, what you've done, and like where you're going is basically what it is. So if I'm applying for a job for a language school, just to keep it easy here, for a language school, I could say, hi, I'm Hannah Leduc. I am a professional student services provider and a teacher, And I've worked with international students for the past several years. I've learned so much about visas, student visas, tourist visas, and all the requirements that are needed. And I've been able to help students in their search for English language courses. And it's been really rewarding to see them improve during that process and then to move on. And now that they're CEOs of companies and they work in government appointments, that's been really rewarding. And so moving forward, I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them in a advising role that will help them achieve their career goals, something like that. So I would like us to practice our elevator pitch. So I would like us to take 2 minutes and get a Google Doc or a piece of paper out and just quickly write out a few points that you would want to say in your elevator pitch. And then I'm going to do breakout rooms so you can practice your elevator pitch for a few minutes. I'm giving us 10 minutes because it always takes longer than you think it will. And then we can come back and we can share what we learned, experienced, or have questions on. Okay? Any questions? All right, so let's do the 2 minutes. 2 minutes, it's 5:13 here, so in 2 minutes we'll join back. All right, so I'm gonna break you guys out into breakout rooms. There should be 2 of you in each breakout room. And so what I would like you to do is the first person will say their pitch. And then if the other person has any feedback or questions, spend about 5 minutes there. And then we'll switch over and do the 5 minutes to the other time. And I'll do broadcast messages to everyone when we should be switching, so that we're giving everyone the time that they need to practice. So here we go. All right, we're waiting for one more group, but how did it go?
Very well.
Yeah.
I get nervous, you know, these activities I love, but I get really nervous. And even though I have my bosquejo, still, I didn't know how to start.
Yes.
But it was nice.
Good. Yeah, I think just practice, 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 practice. And the more you practice, the more you know what you're gonna say. And it's like, you know it, rather than feeling like it's something you have to remember. You're like, I know this, I can move forward. Yeah, how were the other groups?
I think it was fine. The thing was that we have different fields of a career, so it was quite different to understand each other. And at the same time, for example, Azul is studying yet, so she is not working nowadays. So she had to imagine everything from now on. And David is in Peru. So the situation is different from country to country. And in my case, the educational field here in Argentina is a little bit different because you don't speak about weaknesses and strengths all the time, like in different careers. So it's different. You have to express yourself in somehow that is that you have to take advantage, and you do it by practicing. So I think it's not quite theoretical, and you need not to show something like a resume or a CV for them, but they have to listen to you and they decide based on that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That practice. It's really, it feels so simple and maybe like, oh, I know who I am and what I do. But maybe even viewing it as a presentation can help frame it so that you're in the mindset of what you, like kind of the workload that you need to do for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions or reflections about that?
It's difficult to say our weakness. I find it difficult because when you say your abilities is what the people can look better. So, but when you have to say your disabilities or your weakness, it's like you have to know you're better.
Yeah, I think like we mentioned, weaknesses, I think is a very difficult question. No one wants to say, I'm not good at this, or I can't do this well. And so what I always suggest is always have 3 to 5 strengths, write those down. Know what you're really good at, not just what people want to hear, but what you're good at and what you're passionate about, because your answer will come off that much more strongly. And for any weaknesses you have, so if they say, tell us a strength and tell us a weakness, you can say, well, my strength is that I love to connect with people and I really can find out their story and get them engaged and involved. And because of that, my team is more connected and we have better meetings, more productive times in and out of meetings. Then you could say, my weakness is follow-up. I'm not good at following up after a meeting. However, I have used a strategy to help me because I know this is a weakness. I always write down notes in the meeting and then I go straight to my desk and I highlight what I have to do. When you can give them a plan or show them a way that you're compensating for your weakness, I think then you can take your weakness, and while you still have the weakness, you show that you've used it as an opportunity to improve. And I think employers really like to see that. Basically, anything you say in an interview, make sure you always say it positively. Because I think we are very self-critical, and when we can remember the positive things and all the work that we do and that we do well, you're gonna feel more confident in that interview. Yeah, any other questions on interviewing, resumes, cover letters, or even about WESLI? As Jennifer was talking about us at the beginning, I can also answer questions about that.
I think that these topics we have been dealing today are even difficult if we have to answer them in Spanish. So we need to, the question is sometimes that you don't know the vocabulary or you don't know which words to use. But even in Spanish, talking about weaknesses, it's difficult, or to talk about yourself. Because I mean, you are trying to sell yourself in front of a job interviewer, and so you need to work on your emotions as well, to be confident about what you know and what you don't know. So I think that practicing and learning and researching, it's a good way to get what you want in life, not just a job.
Yes, great wisdom. Yes. Another, if you're practicing and you don't have friends or family who want to hear your elevator pitch for the 100th time, you can record yourself maybe on a Zoom call or on your phone and then watch it back. it can be very painful to watch yourself on a recording, but you learn so much. So I know my weakness is that I say a lot because I'm thinking a lot. So I say and so when I watch it back, I'm like, oh no, all of these ums. So when I watch this recording later, I will hear myself say a lot. But it's always a way for me to improve when I watch it and I notice things about myself. So it's, there it is, as painful as it can be, doing those kinds of things really do help you improve.
I want to tell something. Working from home, I also say when I just participate in these webinars, and my husband is always telling me, because he's listening to me while I am working, and he says, remember, you keep saying but it's a way of organizing your thoughts and looking for what you want to say. But anyway, so that's an advantage that working from home has.
Yes, lots of reflection, lots of opportunities to grow. So yeah, so I'm going to, after this webinar here, I'm going to send out the recording of this so that you can have access to it. I'll also send some of those examples that I had in the slides so that you can just take a look at them. No one example is perfect. So please remember that there's lots of ways to write a resume or a cover letter. And then I just wanted to remind you, as Jennifer was saying, you know, we've had lots of students that are business focused, that are looking for improvements in their career, either for their current role or for a future role. And so they've done that through like our business class, which we currently have online, and we'll be starting a new session in January. We also have tutoring, things like that, that you can work and improve on some of that vocabulary. Yeah, it's so important to practice with people. So let us know if you have any questions. I really enjoyed getting to know all of you in this short time, and appreciate your participation, and I wish you all the best in your job search. Just remember confidence and practice, and you'll do great and accomplish great things. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you to all the brave ones who could participate in the breakout rooms, and happy holidays, and we look forward to meeting again in another webinar or visiting you in Wisconsin.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye.
Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank